Alright, hello everyone. This is DayTraderRockStar for a little educational video and watch list for going into the week of June 21st. Now, I already sent out the 10-4000 watch list, which is a watch list that I send out to the members of the site, which contain the supposed to be the 10 best setups of the week. This week, there was so many good setups, so that list consisted of 20 stocks. And I had so many stocks left over, I decided to put a video together and add some of them and send them out to the public right now. So some of these stocks cross over to the 10-4000 watch list that was out, but most of them, I guess I would say a subtitle to this thing would be great patterns I would like to see in the market. And these setups here are basically the patterns I look for. So it's actually great patterns that I want to find in the market, and these are good examples of them. And these are charts that look great going into next week too. So it's a double plus. So we'll start off with EMN here, Eastman Chemical Company. And what I want to talk about is this. It's a double bottom here right under the 200 period moving average. This what I call the slanted inverted head and shoulders pattern. Left shoulder, right shoulder is usually deviate. The way to do this, and I've really never talked about my definition of the inverted head and shoulders, but basically the head is always the largest part of the formation. You have the shoulders or the small little humps. The head is usually a higher or lower area, and then the right shoulder usually comes in. So basically the same thing. For inverted head and shoulders, you want to have a left shoulder, then the head, which really deviates further from the trend line, and then a right shoulder, which comes back closer to the trend line, and then you get the breakout. And everything lines up with this, as we know. We line up the stochastics with this, and any of the patterns. Which there's two patterns here. You actually have a double bottom here, and the 200. So very good setup here. Continues to look good. The market continues to look good going into this week. So this one's definitely setting up and still looks pretty good. Not the top of the list, but looks good. Valero, the wedge pattern. Basically, the wedge pattern I keep an eye out on all the time. I love the wedge pattern combined with the stochastics. The stochastics also form patterns, and in this case, you could actually see the wedge pattern here forming in both of these patterns. Now, this is a wedge pattern with a channel breakout, and this is a wedge pattern with a wedge pattern breakout here. And you can see as you get down closer to the 75% completion of the wedge, where you want to see that breakout, you actually see the stochastics giving us a buy signal down here under 20. That's what we're waiting for. So great setup there. Always look for that wedge and the confirmation of the stochastics. Cree, this is a stock we had on last week's watch list. Another important chart pattern I want to see. I want to see a lower trend line support and the 200 period moving average meeting at the same place and where the price is. And the third thing is the stochastics giving us a buy signal. It was a very easy and very strong buy signal, and from here you can see the movement of the stock price as it breaks through this wedge pattern. So much to learn on these stocks. You can see how the stochastics continue to pull back, establishing this trend line. The next time we get down under 20 here, everything lines up, perfect entry. One thing on the making of a trend line here, if you ever have a gap up or a gap down, most likely one of those areas, a gap up or gap down area, will be the beginning of a trend line or a pattern. It usually breaks off and starts a new pattern at that. So it's a very good trend line if it starts at a gap area. Next stock here. Looks like I'm going to have to put a couple of these out. WFT. This was also what I consider what's called a kick-ass trade of the week, and this was last week. And this is basically based off this large channel, lower trend line. What I see about this is an easy trending stock, which gives us double bounces in the stochastics. Again, stochastics are a pattern. It's a pattern of momentum. This tracks momentum. So whenever you see that double bottom test on the stochastics, even though you might not see it on the chart action, this is a very good signal for that second crossover, and you can see the rally off of this. So this was another great trade we took, and it continues to look good here, and probably going to get a push up towards that trend line and eventually break out to the upside, because the downward trend line always is usually a bullish setup. GT, another stock we traded last week, and again, a slanted inverted head and shoulders pattern. This one broke out. It's consolidated. It's on this week's watch list just because of this consolidation. And we have a measured move up right underneath the 200 period moving average at around $13. So this is on the watch list this week based on the strength and just a great setup here in GT. GCI, Gannett Corporation. Again, lower trend line. It actually held the lower trend line and the 200 period moving average, bounced up, pulled back, held the 200. Again, this is more of a double bottom on the 200, very strong pattern. Stochastics in the channel, and finally, as you get up here, the stochastics give us a buy trigger, and we get the breakout and a nice move here on GCI. So anytime you get a pullback to the 200, regardless of what forms, it's usually good. But if you actually get a pattern down into the 200, and you can identify that with lower trendline support, other setups, and the stochastic and stuff, it's a dynamite entry and a very high reward, low risk entry there. Ryder, I'm cruising in it. Again, another great setup. All I want to do is show you these great setups. Look for these every day in the market. Mostly research after the market as they're setting up. Send the alerts out. Track them on the show. And every so often you get you get these free videos on here. BX here. Blackstone. This is a trend line retracement. When you have an established trend line all the way down, the first time it actually pulls back, usually you get a good bounce. Now, a couple of these setups are on this week's watch list, retracements setups, and one of them is IGT. And again, this is on this week's watch list also. So again, this is a great example of how we track this stock. It develops a wedge pattern, breaks out. Even this little breakout here, the first test of the trend line, pulls away, comes back, tests the downward trend line again, pulls away. Now we have a wedge pattern starting to form on top of this downward trend line. Good support. All I'm waiting is for this stochastics to get a little bit oversold, so we're looking for a pullback here a little, and I would buy that off the lower trend line. And there's probably a good chance that we're going to get a follow through and a move up out of this wedge pattern on IGT. Great setups. I have a few others. I want to go over as many as I can, but we're going to call it there before my video time runs out. You can see all these stocks covered every day in the markets. I broadcast live on DayTradingRadio.com. That's DayTradingRadio.com from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You see the screen like you're seeing right now, live screen of the setups and me announcing the market. So come on by, check it out, and I will see you in the markets.